Lần đầu tiên trên VTV7, một sân chơi tranh biện bằng tiếng Anh đã xuất hiện. Đó là những chiến binh tranh biện với tinh thần tự tin, văn minh và vô cùng sáng tạo.
Education is the key to the future.
Never satisfied with what you're having.
When will it be enough?
You are never too small to make a difference.
We think that the balanced view here is to know all perspectives, to know all the pros and the cons of what you're fighting for.
Họ đã cống hiến những trận thi đấu hấp dẫn và đầy cảm xúc.
Wow, like was so smooth, that was so well prepared.
I love the energy that comes from both sides. I love the enthusiasm that follows the energy and the good content.
Are going to one team. That is
Giải thưởng dành cho nhà vô địch The Debaters mùa thứ nhất là một chuyến học tập và trải nghiệm 2 tuần chương trình dự bị trung học và đại học của chương trình SACE International tại bang Nam Úc do SACE Việt Nam và Ủy ban trường học bang Nam Úc tài trợ. Và các giải thưởng do Trung tâm Anh ngữ RES trao tặng. Đội thi hay nhất do ban giám khảo lựa chọn nhận phần thưởng trị giá 60 triệu đồng. Người nói hay nhất nhận phần thưởng trị giá 15 triệu đồng. Đội có lượt phản hồi hay nhất nhận phần thưởng 30 triệu đồng. Và bây giờ đã đến lúc đi tìm nhà vô địch của The Debaters mùa thứ nhất.
hello and welcome to The Debaters, a debate game show for high school students here in Vietnam, produced and broadcasted by VTV7, the national educational channel. I'm your host, Dustin Chevier. Today is a very special day because this is the last debate of the semi-finals. The winner of this is going to be moving on to the grand finals. We've seen all sorts of emotions, lots of enthusiasm, bold personalities, confidence, and also a lot of respect amongst the contestants here tonight. However, I want to get started, so I'm going to share the motion with you guys. The motion for today, that we should abolish grading systems in school. What a motion, right? We currently have high school students who have a grading system. In this grading system, they may or may not actually like this. Because throughout history, you've always used a grading system. But is it obsolete? Is it something we should continue with or something we should just abolish? But we are going to find out tonight.
Motion being about abolishing grading systems in schools, targets how the education system should work and how schools should work. And it's going to be interesting to see how the teams discuss how students deal with stress within the grading systems, the effectiveness of the grading systems, and whether true education happens in the grading system or in another alternative grading system that the teams might suggest.
So I was just with the girl GDX boy NK team, long name. In terms of style and presentation, they have some good opening remarks and some good clarity, how to build on that and outline their case and do some signposting to make it clear for the judges.
For the proposition team, under the motion, we talked about what the problem is in the status quo in terms of why there might be problems with the grading system and what are some of the alternatives that might be good for them to discuss. For the opposition side, we talked about what are the positive aspects of the grading system and if there can be other changes that aren't necessarily regarding the abolishing of the grading system and how the system itself can be changed without completely getting rid of it. We think those are some of the issues that the opposition might address.
So with the Chemical X team, they had a good overall approach, and I think that they feel that they got a lot of their information across that they wanted to, but being aware of how the other team's going to reply and trying to anticipate some of their rebuttals will be key for them moving forward. They'll need to think about what they're going to be asked, either address it directly or be more prepared for it when it comes up in the other team's rebuttals.
Without further ado, let me introduce the teams. The first team, please welcome girl GD X boy NK. Contestants, PHοιN ĐΗ Thanh Tâm, ŁNG Nhi, Đạo Tí Gạnh Phúc. And now please welcome the opposition team, Chemical X, with Quang Mai An, Nguyễn Hà Phương, Vũ Đức Hùng. Hello and welcome back to Debaters. You will be the opposition team tonight. So, you guys recognize each other.
Yes. This feels like a rematch, though.
It is.
It is a rematch.
Is this destiny?
It is, because this was not planned, so this randomly happened right now. All right, so proposition team. Ni oi. Last time you were super nervous. Are you doing okay right now?
I guess so.
You guess so. I won't make you feel more nervous, but proposition team as a whole, you barely won. You were losing initially. You were able to regain the points and take it. Do you think you're going to do it tonight?
Yes.
I hope we can
we have-
lead by the first place.
So getting first place and moving on to the finals.
Yeah.
So proposition team, opposition team, thank you so much. We're going to introduce the judges, so please take a seat. And what is the Debaters without the judges? So without further ado, let me introduce the first judge for tonight, Miss Nguyễn TIionG, professional debate coach. The second judge tonight, please welcome Mr. Nguyễn HữI, co-founder and CEO of IEG. And last but not least, a judge who has flown 2,740 kilometers from Korea to Vietnam. So Mr. Soku Daniel Yoon, professional debate coach, founder, Secretary General of Debate Korea. So without further ado, let's begin the first debate. From the proposition team, please welcome PHույN ĐΗ Thanh Tâm. From the opposition team, please welcome Quang Mai An. Girls, hi. Mai An, what's going through your mind right now? Because you also debated Tâm before.
She is a really nice and good debater, and I'm expecting that I'm gonna have very nice debate with her.
So I'm gonna come over here. Tâm ơi, in the last debate, I believe Mai An, she scored 10 points higher than you. Do you think that's gonna happen?
I haven't known yet, but I think I will try better this time.
Okay. And you guys, again, very friendly components, which I like. So, the rules for the first debate. You have 3 minutes to deliver your speech. No POI, so there's no questions in this one. Proposition team, you will be going first. Okay. Let the first debate begin.
We're living in a world where teachers solve tasks or lecturing students providing tests and grading tests. But with the developments of AI to the point where in several countries such as Japan and Germany, assistant robots are utilized in even lecturing, teachers' tasks are no longer exclusive to them. However, what are the problems that still persist to this day? Students with grading system that place them on a scale from 1 to 100 are limited to their thoughts and ability. Meanwhile, teachers are also hindered from their potentials to construct feedback and also to observe the students. And tracing back to the core of this problem, the proposition team highly support the elimination of grading system. But what is grading system in the first place? Well, this is a structure that evaluates students' performance using standardized measurements such as A+, 4.0 or 20 or 90%. And with the problems that have been pointed out and will be further evaluated, as the proposition team, we propose the replacement of grading system with interviews and feedback system. Why? Well, first of all, students will be given feedback based on their strengths and weaknesses over their attendance, participation, and also their performance. And second of all, in this policy, we will also encourage teachers by increasing their salary and providing social welfare that aid them in evaluating their students. So by this replacement, we believe we make students to become a more functional and beneficial person to the community. Why? First of all, our argument. We believe that grading grading system inefficient as representing students' performance and knowledges. In your word, you see grading system as the summarize of students' accomplishment and improvement to the next level. However, in our word, we believe that grades is informative, ineffective, and uneducational reports, numbers, and characters that represent only an effort put in one period of time that have no long-term efficiency. For example, if your final are coming in 1 week, you will have a stress on having high score, and so you are not focused on understanding the knowledge of the subject, and instead learning on how to score a high score. This will create short-term memories that you will immediately forget after. What is the purpose of this education when you will immediately forget after you study them? However, with feedback system, where teachers give instructions and feedback on strengths and weaknesses, students get to know and access on the areas of improvements and put no stress on high score. In this case, students are able to explore the problems in depth and aware that they are doing this out of their interest. In fact, studies named Degrading and Degrading by Alfred Cole points out that students with numerical grades have lower creativity than feedback grades, and also lower preference to challenging tasks. So since education aims at importanting students for their future, driving them from these challenges by stress and high score will prove to be inefficient, which is why I'm proud to propose. Thank you.
We believe that we are living in an interconnected world, that it's not enough to be a better version of yourself of yesterday, but you also have to be relatively good to your peers and teammates and the people surrounding you. For that, we believe in your system of feedback is not enough, that grading is the only and the best grade system in this society. We believe that we should not abolish grading system in school. First, some rebuttals to you. Let's compare between grading and feedback. We believe that the grading gives you on a scale for you to compare where you are right now. While feedback you only know and you can only be a better version of yourself yesterday, and we believe that this is not enough because you are living in an interconnected society. Furthermore, grading is better than your feedback. Why? Because this can reach to more students. Because feedback, it takes more time and it cannot reach as good as the grades. And we believe that grading, as I've mentioned before, is the better version, since students, they can not only self-evaluations, but also they compare to others, so they can have motivations to be better. That's why we believe that your feedback system doesn't work and the grading system is the better version. Now, we want to give some extension to the definitions. What is the purpose of a school? We believe that school is the mini society that it has a purpose to build foundations that prepare future students for their future. Coming to the debate today, we have two arguments supported outside of the house. First, why it is justified to apply a grading system, and second, why grading system will ensure the progress of the students. Now, coming to the first argument, why it is justified to apply the grading system. The nature of this society is the competitiveness. Why? Because many philosophers and psychologists have identified a trait in most living organisms which can drive the particular organism to compete. This trait, called competitiveness, is viewed as an innate biological trait which coexists along with the urge for survival. We believe that competitiveness is necessary and essential and very normal in society, and is the factor for development. For example, employers only seek for the best employee. And we believe that by giving grading system, we are providing the mechanism for them to adapt to the society, because they have sense of acknowledgement to know where they are, they actually know that to be the better version of themselves, and second, to ensure that they won't fall behind. And with this mindset, it's better for the future of the students. And we believe that with the responsibility of school, it's justified for school to apply a grading system. Thank you.
Okay, great way to kick it off. Judges, let's hear your opinions.
So first of all, thank you for giving us a very, very nice opening speech. In today's debate, I think that it's a little bit hard for me to judge, not because that your speeches were so great, but because there are a lot of mistakes in the first speeches. Prop sign today, I'm a tiny bit disappointed, just a tiny bit, that you read entire 3 minutes. I didn't see you having any kind of eye contact or like explaining what you say, but you're only reading, which actually result in your content to be very rich, but at the same time, it's not natural. Number 2 is your structure. I don't think that your structure is as clear as your opponent's structure today. You had a lot of ideas and the ideas are linked to each other, but I don't see the big picture in what you are saying right now. For opposition side, however, you have very, very clear structure and I like your style, but at the same time, the content that you deliver was not as rich as your opponent today. So ultimately, if I have to choose between a speech with rich content, but not very, very good message versus a speech with smaller content, but good structure, I would go for opposition side. 10 points for you.
Okay, so with the proposition team, there's, I agree with my fellow judge, the content, there's a lot of great content in there, okay? It's just about how you present it to the table. Now, I think you have a good set up the case and you actually clear that in terms of abolishment of the grading system, I have like alternative policies. I think it's setting the tone very clear in the beginning to have backup for your discussion. With a lot of these arguments, even though they are so spot on, but I wish that with each of the arguments, you give me an examples of, let's say, an education system or elsewhere that have abolished the grading system and there's concrete evidence to prove that it's actually boost the students' learning or something like that. Otherwise, it's just really surfing on the wave without any substance underneath, okay? Now, moving to the opposition team. Before I give any comment, I think you guys should need to regroup again and probably do a little bit twist on how you analyze the debate motion. The debate motion is about should we abolish grading system. It's not necessarily mean that it's exclusive of the feedback system. You don't necessarily have to prove that the grading system is better or not as good as the feedback system. It can be a complementary, right? So I feel like if you don't kind of reanalyze the motion a little bit, you may got into a very loophole. So because I feel like you guys may get off track a little bit, and it feels like you're just trying to prove that the grading system is better and it's the best, because there's sometimes it's the best system. That's why the 10 point this round I will go to the proposition team. Okay.
For the proposition, I think proposition needs to give me kind of how the feedback system actually solves for some of the problems that you may identify in the grading system, in terms of you identify other issues such as stress, and maybe how does the feedback system solve that is something that need to address. While for the opposition side, you come up with ideas of how competition is an innate trait for people in terms of their growth and education, but I don't know why the grading system is the only way, what the relationship is between having that innate trait and that being in the education system. Because maybe in the education system that might be a necessity or it might not be a necessity. I don't know the direct correlation between the people being inherently competitive and that being a necessary aspect of the grading system. So I think that's some of these issues that hopefully will get addressed onwards. In terms of my voting, I ended up voting for the proposition because I think proposition has a better identification of the status quo and better description of the inherent problems that may exist in the education system. And while the opposition does a good defense of the current grading system, I think there still needs to be some kind of response to why their alternative system is not preferable.
So girls, thank you so much. So proposition team, opposition team, please return back to your seats. Currently, girl GD, X-Boy, NK, the proposition team, they have 20 points. They are leading by 10. The opposition team, Chemical X, they have 10 points. This is going to be a great second debate. However, we'll have it after the break.
propose the replacement of grading system with interviews and feedback system.
By giving grading system, we are providing the mechanism for them to adapt to the society.
Why grading system is the only way.
Welcome back to the second round of the debaters. Currently, the proposition team has 20 points. The opposition team has 10 points. Let's introduce our next contestants from the proposition team. Please welcome Wook and Nhi. From the opposition team, please welcome Wang Ha-foon. All right, Nhi, since I'm closest to you, I'm going to start with you.
Okay.
I know last time you were incredibly nervous.
Yeah.
Are you nervous today?
I'm excited more than
good.
nervous. I'm so excited now.
Good, because you know you're going to start this round, right?
Because my opponent is very nice, actually. I always wish a rematch with her, and I got it. So I guess I will do my best today.
Good. Okay, so Foong, last time you won by 10 points.
Right.
You think you're going to do it again?
I hope so, but I really hope that I won't let myself get in the way of me doing well, because I tend to do that. I tend to overthink things. So, wish me luck.
You know, good luck, and I know you have the pencil strategy again. So for the second match, you will have 4 minutes to deliver your speech.
Yes.
POI is open. So if you need to ask a question, you already know, ring the bell. You have 15 seconds to deliver your question. Proposition team, you are going to go first. Do you girls understand the rules?
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. Let the second debate begin.
We want to create a world where people can be creative, be happy. They have the motivation to live as a well-being, not just to live for the grades and for competitiveness. Now, I will prove to you why feedback and interview system can work better than gradings. The stoic grades cannot prove to the employers whether you have the strengths in what and you have the weakness in what. But our feedback system, the teachers give children the strengths and the weakness they have, so that they can have improvements. And when it comes to the interview, the employers can look at these feedback notes and they can see that, yeah, this is the weakness and this is the strength of their employee, and they can decide better whether they should or should not hire them. And why? Even though it takes time, the benefits for the creator of a company is more important, because they need high quality employers that are suitable. As we have told you, 8 to 9 people per 10 is not satisfied with their jobs. Therefore, job satisfying is very important. And if that wants to be the case, they have to understand what is their strength and their weakness if they are suitable for the company. Now, I will give out some more about those about your competitiveness. We believe that a friendly environment is more important than competitiveness, because people should help each other. The word we use, feedbacks and interview, you can still be a little bit competitive in terms of you have to perform well in order to get feedbacks and interview, and you get good results of those. You don't have to chase your whole life into grades. And I want to tell you that in your current world, we are living in a society where grades become the standard of everything. And this is not just a competition for students, but also a competition for the educators. Now I will prove to you, with the pressure you put on these teachers, they will limit the potentials of the teachers. Now let's come to your world. With the grades, teachers follow a molded way of judging and teaching students. They want children to get good grades. They have to push children to learn. They cannot teach children the experience, their important life skill that they have more experience in. They cannot evaluate those things, because the grade is everything you're looking for. And these things are not counted when you're doing a test. Therefore, teacher cannot really make it. They might know that they should teach those, but time limitations and a great deal of knowledge they have to deliver is preventing them from doing that. Students always see them as a teaching machine instead of a loved one, and this led to the fact that teachers become very stressed. They want to quit, or they continue a soulless job that slowly kills their happiness and job satisfaction. I will prove to you this. 61% of teachers say that teaching is always, oftenly, a stressful job, and 50% says that I don't have the enthusiasm they used to have on their first year of teaching. And why is this? Because they are limited. They are not allowed to do what they want to deliver to the students. And let's come to our work. In our work, teachers freely teach the children in their most comfortable and effective way of their all. They teach children to be active. They boost the creativity, the students' potential. They create tasks for children. Children can do projects to get the feedbacks, and teachers give feedbacks constructively, not just giving a grade that doesn't show anything, because each school have a different grading systems. How can you say that it is for the whole society and they can know where they are, while each school have another different one? Therefore, we believe that in our work, we create an active style learning, and we also can benefit teachers and students. Proud to propose.
First of all, you bring up the case of teachers being teaching machine because they're not allowed to be creative in their resources. But you have to understand here is that grades are evaluation and lessons are resources. These are very two different things. You don't teach your children by just giving them grades. That's not how education works. You're assuming that by applying a grading system, we're giving no guidance, no lesson, no materials to guide students how to improve themselves, which is against the goal of education itself and not what we're aiming towards. When you bring up the case of employers and how they don't understand the strength of students, but the thing is, if there's no universal standard, then how reliable is that feedback is? You're assuming that employers would give out that extra effort to choose the feedback that they find most suitable when clearly they're more likely to choose the more impressive CV with their limited opportunities. You give us the example where each school have a different grading system, but again, different grading systems are still more universal than just a feedback, a very subjective feedback from one teacher, and that is why we can accept this. Now, again to the previous ideas when you have given us, feedback here is not exclusive to just your world. Grades, when you give grades, you are allowed to give feedback. You are allowed to give guidance to help students improve. Simply, a grading system here is provided as a form of evaluation, as a form for students to know where they are in this community. And you cannot assume that teachers will pay attention to every single student to the point where every little changes in their performance can be noticed. Because in some cases, grades are the things that help teachers see if students are making any progress at all. You cannot assume that a world surrounds only one individual. And you've given us how education is just only about memorizing, but this is not the problem that is caused from grading system. This is because you're assuming that our education system is still so old school that tests are still relying on memorizing and multiple choices. And clearly, this is on your side of the house as well, that this problem still remains if you get rid of grading system, because simply education changes as we adapt. And that is why the grading system here is just not the strict and hard and not suitable ideas that you're talking about, because it is not the grading system fault in the first place. Now, to our point, you have to understand that to abolish something, you must prove to us how it causes problems to the point where you cannot solve them, and the only way you can solve it is to abolish the system completely, and you have not shown us this. Why? Now, to our second argument, which is how this grading system can ensure the progress of students. Again, school is supposed to be where students have to ensure their improvements and ensure their progress, and we rely this on self-evaluation. When you see specific areas and where you can improve, grading systems set up a clear criteria, an objective and a straightforward view, and when you improve, you move from point A to point B. But to see where point A is and where point B is and exactly which areas you have to improve to get to that point is where grading system plays into. And this can only be done by using a grading system, either that or telling students straight to their face. And we will explain why, yes.
Grading system is different from standardized tests. There are no standard in your work because your word say grading system, right? But grading system from each school is different, from each country is different, from each region is different. So, what is the standard? While feedbacks, you always need those traits of employees.
Okay, we accept the idea that grading system here is not universal, but we will still prove to you why it is needed for students to see their place in the system that they're working on. Now, back to our point is that in your idea of feedback here, you can either tell your students that you have improved, but they will never know if they're left behind in their whole class or their whole community. And we think this is so toxic because you can't even show your students where exactly. If you tell them exactly the mental damage here that you're talking about, the demotivation that you're talking about will be much higher on their side. And that is why we can't ensure that in an environment where we're constantly encouraging progress. Thank you.
Okay, things are getting good. I like this. Now, we'll see what the judges have to say. So judges, let's hear it for the second debate.
So this was, once again, really good. And I think this was a very high quality communication of debates and speeches. So that I'm very impressed. Good job on both sides. In terms of for the proposition, I think it's an interesting turn that the proposition decided to take in terms of focusing for the teachers more, because they are a very important aspect of the education system. At the same time, though, it becomes interesting to think about whether the proposition is debating the motion more about the teachers or for the students, because I think it's difficult for one team to argue for both the students and the teachers and still have enough time to discuss in detail about how the quality can matter for both of these two different stakeholders. And for the opposition, I really like the kind of comeback to the teacher's argument as to how there's grades are for evaluation while the teaching is for the lessons. And so there are two different aspects that you can't really combine into one, because the proposition is only arguing for abolishing of the grade system. So that seems like to be an adequate comeback to that. I also find it interesting how the grading system is necessary for any kind of evaluation to actually happen. So I'm kind of curious to see how both sides are going to address the differences between the feedback system and the grading system in terms of how the evaluation looks like and what the minor details might be that kind of make up the differentiations for that. So with that in mind, I'm actually going to vote for the opposition in this round because I think the opposition has very good identification of where the burden of proof is for the government and why that burden of proof is a necessary aspect for them to kind of defend of the abolishment of the grades.
Thank you, both teams. I think that your speeches today are very, very nice, very spot on. You guys definitely have a lot of ideas in here. For proposition sign today, I highly appreciate your speech. It was very clear, and I love the fact that there was a lot of comparison between the grading system and the feedback system. I think that is phenomenal. For opposition sign today, I see that you put a lot of effort, much more effort into rebuttals, and a lot of your rebuttals was very, very nice. Your ideas in there, I think it was very, very nice as well. However, if I look back at, like the engagement between the two teams, I find myself still leaning over the propositions more at this time, even though previously I voted for opposition sign. In this round, proposition, you have 10 points.
With the proposition team, I felt like in the beginning, you kind of lost me a little bit. I think you spent too much time about the feedback interview in terms of employees and employers, rather than like directly addressing their strong arguments about the grading system. And a lot of the argument is like, kind of like you jumping to the conclusion without giving me enough evidence to believe in the conclusion. With the opposition team, I agree with my fellow judges that your rebuttal was extremely well done. I think it's to the point, and I got it, like it's very short, but it's like it touched the core reasoning of the rebuttals. And I like it when you go to the argument, you say that the motion is about you only abolish something when it causes too much problem that the only solution is to get rid of that. I think it set a nice tone for your argument. And I like it when you walk us through the grading mechanism, how grading is about a set of criteria and walking students from point A to point P as a context to measure the performance of students. I quite like it. Now, before I get my point, I think you guys need to be very clear about how this motion can be settled. The proposition team is about you need to prove that the abolishing of the grading system is necessary, and the feedback system can fix its problems, the problem of the grading system, while still maintaining some of the benefits of the grading system. With the opposition team, you need to highlight that abolition of the grading system is not necessary, and even we keep that grading system in the system, it still develop a lot of benefits, and even with some problems, the benefits still outweigh the disadvantages, right? So that would be like what good this motion comes to, okay? That said, my 10 point in this round, I give it to the opposition team.
This is getting interesting. So we are dead even, correct?
Yeah.
30-30. This debate is closer than the last one, because right now we are dead even. So girls, thank you so much. If you can, please go back to your seats. With the proposition team right now, they have 30 points. The opposition team, they also have 30 points. At this moment, it is anybody's game. But we have the third match coming up right after the break.
We are living in a society where grades become the standard of everything. And this is not just a competition for students, but also a competition for the educators.
The grading system here is just not the strict and hard and not suitable ideas that you're talking about, because it is not the grading system's fault in the first place.
The proposition team is about you need to prove that the abolishing of the grading system is necessary. With the opposition team, you need to highlight that abolition of the grading system is not necessary.
Welcome back to the third round of the debaters. Right now, we are at a dead even tie with 30 points from the proposition team and the opposition team also with 30 points. Without further ado, let me introduce the contestants for the third debate. From the opposition team, please welcome Đào Thi Cận Phúc. From the opposition team, please welcome Vũ Đức Hùng. Right now, it is a dead even tie. So, Phúc, I'm going to start with you. Last time you won by 30 points in the quarterfinals. Are you going to do that again?
I just hope so.
You hope so?
Yeah.
All right, Home. Last time, it was a shutout. She got all 30 points, and you know how important this match is, right?
Yeah, I know.
So what is going through your mind right now?
It's even now, so it's not really odd in this show, but I'll try my best.
Okay. Let me explain the rules. You guys are familiar. The third match is similar to the second match. You have 4 minutes to deliver your speech. POI is open. Proposition team, you will be going first. Opposition team, you will be going second. Do you understand the rules?
Yes.
Let the third debate begin.
So in this modern world, we believe that AI can provide the test as well as scoring the students. So therefore, they have already done the teacher jobs. The roles of the teacher are no longer fulfilled and they cannot reach their full potential. Therefore, they cannot help their student reach their full potential. And that's how I bring back to my context. Now, let's go to the motions. On my side, I'm going to explain to you why these two grading system and the feedback system cannot exist together. And what's the difference? So first class, the students, it cannot exist together because we believe
believe that having a score report will devaluate other things like feedback or recommendation from teachers. The employer cannot have an objective view of the student's abilities. Therefore, these two cannot exist together. We believe that grades are quantitative and grades have a direct impact on student permanent score and therefore also their future. They immediately make a stronger impression than any feedback that comes along with them. If you see that you got a series of D on your report card, your disappointment with that is likely to outweigh your desire to read the detailed, nuanced feedback that teachers provide along with it. The reaction of parents also matter here. Before that, yes.
We believe that if the score is so bad, he or she should have tried at the very first place. And also, he or she should apply for something that is suitable with the score.
Thanks a lot. We believe that even they try at the best of their score, this kind of field is so competitive, and if they only have a low score in their score report, it will devaluate like the whole score report, and you only use number to judge the people. And we believe that what you see is not the past, but what you see is the person right now. How does he or she look like? Now, continue to my speech. The reaction of parents also matter here. Parents are likely to scold or punish their children for getting bad grades, which harm the children's willingness to continue learning as opposed to reaching the detailed feedback from teacher on how the children can do better. Reject. Now, why the fact that employers look and evaluate and consider carefully the feedback first is so important and more subjective. We believe that feedback from teachers is likely to be more detailed and comprehensive and deal with who the student is as a person as well as the abilities of the student has. And that's the same reason that even in the status quo, where we have grades, a lot of employers as well as at university also demand letters of recommendations from teachers or professionals because they recognize that grades don't fully summarize who the student is. And the issue that we are solving here is that we believe that with the feedback system, it will give more objective view. Now, I'm going to extend it to the second stakeholder, which is the underprivileged students. We believe that a problem exists with the grading system that has fine differentiation between students is that underprivileged students who don't have access to things like extra tuition or who may have to work part-time are often less able to devote all their time and energy to striving for a 10 or an 8. Even though they can pass and understand the material, they aren't able to make that last extra plus and thus get them to a 10 or an 8 because of the socio-economic disadvantage they face. In a feedback system, they are put on a more equal footing because the differentiation between students is no longer as fine, and all students need to prove that they understand the material, reject, and be active in class. Now, we believe that in our system, we are teaching students that they will have to be responsible for what they are studying, for their own future. And we believe that the issue that has solved is that the passive students in the generation. And it's probably true that students will relax a bit more and stop fighting for every individual mark. But that is a good thing. And we believe that fighting a mark isn't the point of learning. They have to explore the subject matter instead of just learning specifically for exams. And students can also have a better work life and balance between the relaxed, which is more good for their mental health. And we believe that we will strongly protect the student, and we have proved that these kind of two systems cannot exist together. Therefore, very proud to propose.
Honorable judges, we believe we only have the heated debate today is because the contestants are so aiming for the score, and we believe that the grading system incites motivations for students to try better in their life. First of all, to minor rebuttals, they say that the friendly environment in schools is better than the stressful environment with scores. We already have the primary years for students to enjoy the friendly environment, and when the schools have to prepare the children for the very competitive reality, they will have to incite children motivation by helping them to get familiar with the competitions with the grading systems. Also, you stated that employees can't have an objective view of students just based on number. But ladies and gentlemen, the numbers are representing their academic view, academic abilities, right? And we believe that the feedback are even more subjective because it is the feeling of the teacher, and also feedback and scores can happen in both worlds. We already have the recommendations letter alongside with the grades because we need employers to see what personality the students is through the letters, and also employers need to see how good the students are in academic ability through scores, right? No. Also, they say that parents will scold children if they have low score, but we believe if they have bad feedbacks from the teacher, the parents can also scold children. it's as long as they don't try enough, right? And also, you say that underprivileged students, by using feedbacks, it will be more fair because they don't have tutors, right? But we believe that the test and the scores already take on the lessons you learn from schools, and also, if they are so underprivileged, they will have to fight more and try more so that when they come out to life, they will have to compete with more and more people in the reality. And as we've said before, reality is uneasy. And now, for the burden of proof of the proposition side, they did not prove to us why it is so urgent, why it is so bad and so disastrous that we have to immediately eliminate the grading systems, right? They all just say that it is too competitive, but as we said before, life is uneasy and we have to prepare for students. And if we don't prepare for students, how are you going to prepare the students to be competitive? And in this life, when they come out, they would have to compete with more gifted students, more intelligent students, and even more people that is not on the same age with those students, right? That is life, and they will have to compete until the end of their life, or else they will be confused when they come out of school. And that is a very toxic way to teach your children. Is their alternative working? We believe it is not working, and it's not even better in our case. Now, to answer the questions with our case, grading system is not so bad and we don't have to remove it. Also, on the other hand, they prepare the students that when they have to compete with people outside the schools. And also, grading system is not the best system, but it's not deserved to be abolished. And till this time, day and age, it is the best way we can have to evaluate and to help the students to get better version of themselves and also to get better than other students and to compare by themselves with the scores, right? Now, to the clashes. Which side creates motivation for students to compete in a very uneasy world? We believe the other side of the house only say that the teacher's feedback is the best way, but these are too personal. And also, when the teachers have to tell the children how bad are you comparing to other children, that it will be more damaging and more hurtful to the children. And we believe that is too bad, a bad way to train your children. We believe no, and all of your case is just an assumption. Therefore, strongly to oppose this motion. Thank you.
Okay, things are heating up. I know, I'm very curious to hear from the judges.
Thank you, both teams. I think that the third round is the most enjoyable round by far for me, watching you guys debate, because now the debate is really on point. The two teams are really having a lot of good engagement against each other. For the prop sign today, I love your structure, how you deliver the speech. I think that the logic in here is very, very clear for me. Especially, I am very impressed when you can pull up the underprivileged students inside this debate as well. I think that's not only a very good idea, but it's also very well developed in here as well, and it's significant. For the opposition side today, I think that there's a lot of good rebuttals coming from your side. However, because of the time management, you didn't have a lot of time to explain the clashes, which I think is very, very important. Next time, trying to look after the time better. For the rebuttal itself, I like most of the rebuttal, except for the part that at the beginning of your rebuttals, I felt like you kind of make the wrong questions in here. But you fix it kind of eventually. So with that feedback, I'm going to give my 10 points today to the proposition side.
I think the debate is at its peak right now in terms of how the logic development and engagement is happening, and so that's very exciting for us as judges to see. For the proposition, I think the identification of grading and feedback system having together can be problematic, as I think a good attempt to answer the question. I don't know if it's necessarily the best way to answer the question, because it seems like this combination is also existing in the status quo. So I don't necessarily know if this is something that is impossible or like a bad thing to have, although I think it was a good attempt to answering it itself. And for the opposition, I think you have the way of defending the grading system to be fine. And I think you can have slightly more examples or give more nuanced kind of descriptions on how these grading systems are effective and successful ways of evaluating. because I think you're more on the defensive side of why the grading systems are fine, instead of going on the more offensive way of providing with more positive examples on why the grading system might be a good thing. Unless the proposition is able to prove a significant aspect for a problem in the grading system, that it's still fine for the grading system to be okay. I'm still bought with the burden of proof, and so I vote for the opposition.
So as I say in the first two rounds, this debate motion will come down to which team can prove their point the strongest. I think the challenge of the proposition team is to prove that the grading system cannot coexist with other evaluation systems, and coexistence of these two different systems will cause more harm than good, right? Which I think you are trying to do that. That's how you set up your third speech, which is this: you deliver a very strong statement that grading and feedback cannot exist together. That said, I agree with my fellow judge. You have a very good structure, but I think it comes a bit late into the game, right? That's why I'm not very convinced how the grading system is so destructive and so negative that it cannot coexist with other feedback system. With the opposition team, you just need to prove that the grading system is not so destructive. It can still coexist with the other system as a complementary, it's not as an exclusive and conflicting evaluation systems. I think you managed to rebut a lot of the ideas from the first two debaters of the proposition team, and even some of the arguments that the third debater of the proposition team brought up. So I think you do a good job in rebuttals, but I think that is when you start running out of time for the wrap up of your case, right? So both sides have strong positionings. It's very hard to judge this route, but eventually I have to come to which team slightly give me a more clarification on their positioning and convince me a little bit more on their positioning. That's why my 10 boys do go to the opposition team.
Thank you so much, proposition team. Thank you so much, opposition team. Please return to your seats. Currently, girl GD, X-boy NK, the proposition team is down 10 points. They have 40 points. The opposition team, Chemical X, has 50 points. There's a 10-point difference. However, we still have the reply speech, which will determine the winner tonight. We will start with the reply speech after the break.
In our system, we are teaching students that they will have to be responsible for what they are studying for their own future.
Grading system is not so bad, and we don't have to remove it. Also, on the other hand, they prepare the students like when they have to compete with people outside the schools.
But eventually I have to come to which team slightly give me a more clarification on their positioning and convince me a little bit more on their positioning.
Welcome back to the Debaters 2019, produced and broadcasted by VTV7, the national educational channel here in Vietnam. We are going to begin the reply speech shortly. Without further ado, let me introduce the contestants. From the proposition team, please welcome BIểN N. From the opposition team, please welcome Hoàng Hà. Okay, the reply speech. Nghị ơi, I see you're still working here.
Yeah.
I know, you're going to be talking very, very soon. So how do you feel right now? Because in this situation, you are currently down. Before, it's a little bit different.
It's really hard to really express my feelings now because I feel like if I just make a single little mistake, we will completely lose the debate. So I am quite sure that I have to try my best and I have to give everything I have in order to not letting the judges down and not letting my opponents down.
So there's a lot of pressure on your chest right now. So just take a deep breath. It's going to be okay. Just keep that smile. All right. So Phuong, what's going through your mind right now?
The fact that my opponent team has so much expectation for us and for my speech is a really wake-up call for me that this is happening. And I think that I have to stay really careful with my speech too. For sure. Yeah.
Because you guys can still lose, in the proposition team you can still win. Because currently there is only a 10-point difference between both of your teams. Let me explain the rules for the reply speech. You will have 2 minutes to deliver your speech. POI is not open. Opposition team, you will be going first. Let the reply speech begin.
The proposition side here today is so afraid of the word quantitative and direct, but we think that this is not something to be afraid of. The fact that grades are quantitative is actually the proof why it can coexist with other grading and evaluation methods, like you have said, feedback, because there's no conflict of interest or opinions. And the fact that it is directing towards self-evaluation, because on your side, when you give us the idea of feedback, if it's not direct, then students can't improve. But if it is direct, students take that personally, as this is a direct comparison coming from another person and not you yourself. And that's why this is more damaging, which we have proven. Now, understand that school is trying to replicate a small society and that we cannot replicate the complex competition out there, but at least we can provide a system where individuals can see where they are in that community. And students have to learn the balance of improving themselves comparing to what they have done, but also not letting themselves fall behind with others. And the idea, you haven't given us why your alternative will achieve either of this, but let's just take you at your best case, which is that feedback and interviews can help students improve themselves. But then again, how will they understand where they are in that community? How will they know if they're not falling behind? We have repeatedly asked you this question and repeatedly proved to you how this cannot be achieved, but this idea was not engaged at all. Understanding the harms you bring to us is that, first of all, it harms the teacher's creativity, which we have proven to be not equivalent to the evaluation method here. Second of all, memorizing. Again, this can be changed without affecting the grading system. This is not the grading system fault. This is about a resource and material that we're providing our children. Third of all, how minorities are affected here. But understanding that if minorities are treated not equally in our society, why is the feedback or why is that result are also seen the same in that society that you're talking about? We don't understand this, and the idea that you bring this to the third speaker is quite late and unfair to us. And the fact that you cannot prove that your impact is greater than ours and that we have proven to you how it is so important for students to be prepared for the future, and this is the role of education, is why we believe we have won today's debate.
Okay, now it is the reply speech, and I will prove to you why we cannot let the coexistence of grading system with a feedback system. Firstly, the scores. There are too many ways to get good scores. For example, you would have to learn a lot of knowledge and then you get a good score. But the education is not about how much you know, but it's how much you can apply it into your life. And we will talk about that later. Secondly, the feedback is more constructive, since it shows the weakness and the strengths with the room for improvements. But why is this destructive? Because people look at the scores before they give feedbacks, or as we have told you, the employment looks at your score before reading your feedbacks. But feedback is something more practical than just a score, because we have told you, scores have many standards. But feedbacks, you say they don't have standards, but we told you that there will be the traits that every employee will need, and the teachers feedback those into the notes for the employers. Therefore, the feedbacks and the scores cannot coexist. And if it does coexist, it will be destructive because people are now more evaluating the score. And as I told you, the true meaning of education is not the score, but it's the knowledge, it's the application. It's not the raw modes, but it's the creativity. They are able to try new things in education and gain support. And when they express the uniqueness of themselves, there is no pass or fail. Not afraid of doing wrong, because if you do wrong, you don't have the scores, but you do have the feedbacks. And that feedbacks help you improve. You're not losing the points. So you are able to take the risk, and you are able to do something to your likings. You are curious about fighting about new things. Your creativity will be boosted. That is our work. They learn good traits. They learn to express themselves, not to trying to satisfy the social norms and the stereotyping cold, stoic scores that have no standard and prove nothing. Thank you.
All right, all right, all right. Today's debates have officially come to an end. As you're already aware, the judges will not be giving you any feedback for this round. Before I send you back to your seats, Oi, do you have any last words?
You are very beautiful.
No, that was very nice. Phone, do you have any last words?
I'm like so flustered, thank you.
Okay, so that was some interesting last words. Girls, thank you so much. If you can, please return to your seats. We just finished the reply speech, and now we need to find who is the winner of tonight's semifinals. However, we'll get back to you right after the break. Welcome back to the final results of Debater 2019. To my right, we have Girl GD, X-Boy NK, the proposition team. To my left, we have Chemical X, the opposition team. Currently, we have 50 points over here, 40 points over here. However, before I get into the final results, I want to say thank you so much for coming out here today. This is the semifinals. So you should be very proud of yourselves for making it this far. And also, you guys have been so respectful of each other, especially the last comment. Thank you, Ni. So, without further ado, I think everyone is waiting to know the final results to move on to the finals of the debater. The winner of tonight is going to the opposition team, Chemical X. Congratulations. So everybody at home who wants to find out more about the debaters, you can check out VTV7's Facebook and VTV7's YouTube. Thank you so much, contestants. Everyone at home, have a great night. Take care. TRANH.